Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Marriage Puzzle Podcast. My name is Thomas.
I'm Julie.
And thanks for joining us again this week. If you didn't get a chance to go back and listen to last week's episode yet, go ahead and pause now, go back and listen, because it was a great episode. This week we have Garrett and Chelsea Zimmerman from Transformed Couples on our podcast, and we had them on our episode last week. So
they were so good.
Yeah, it was fantastic. So and so what we talked about last week, their whole niche is kind of around blended families, and we had a great conversation with them last week, and kind of talking about the past and how you guys came to be where you're at now. And we teased everyone last week and told them now we're going to talk about the present and how your communication has improved with each other, and and things like that. So that's where we're at. So welcome back again this week. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you. This is great. We're looking forward to it. Last week was so good.
So good. It feels like so long ago. So yeah, this week we're talking about the present situation now. We talked last week a lot about past relationships and how that kind of molded each of you as individuals, and probably molded somewhat of your relationship now into a better relationship. So I think probably a good place to start off is to kind of bridge that gap a little bit, in case anyone didn't listen to my advice at the beginning of this one, they haven't paused yet to go back and listen to last week's episode. Maybe let's talk about some of the bridging the gap of unlearning some bad communication habits that you had with your past relationships, and how you have relearned them with each other, because obviously your past significant other probably communicates in a different way with your spouse now, and so talk us through that.
Yeah, I mean, everyone is so different, and definitely I can tell you this without a shadow of a doubt. Chelsea and how we communicate is much different than how I communicated with my ex-wife. And the reality is that I've learned never to assume. And I say that because in my past there were times when I would assume, and that would cause me to communicate in a certain way. And now, Chelsea and I, what I've had to unlearn is that it's okay to ask questions. It's okay to get clarification. It's okay to not know the answer. And, when Chelsea and I have been in some conversations, there's been times where I've had to ask her, what is it that you need from me right now? Do you need me to just listen? Or do you need me to go into like problem solving, Mr. Fix It, I'm going to give advice mode?
Good.
Because
he's taking notes.
well, because it is one of those realities for men, and any of the guys out there can probably relate, and the women are smiling and saying, yep, that would be it. But as men, we typically go into solution mode. And I had a tendency to do that in the past. Bring me a problem, I'll solve it. Yeah. Bring me a challenge, I'll figure it out. And sometimes, and I've learned this, we just need to listen as partners. We don't need to give advice. And so now, Chelsea and I have a very open relationship in terms of the communication, whereby I'll ask her, what is it that you need from me? Do you want me to give you advice? Can I give you advice? And being okay with her response, no matter what it is. Because as much as I might want to give advice, if she says, no, I just need you to listen right now. Okay, then I know. Just sit here and listen. And that has prevented so many potential conflicts, I think. Because rather than assuming we know what our partner wants, we ask our partner. And then our partner is allowed to determine the direction of that conversation. And that is so powerful. And it's something that we encourage all couples to bring into practice. It feels awkward. It feels uncomfortable at times. But you'll quickly learn that when you ask the question of what your partner actually just wants or needs from you in that moment, it takes all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
And as partners, your quality of communication just increases exponentially.
Yeah. And even on the flip side of that, like getting to the point where you feel confident asking for what you want, that takes a lot of communication too, because, you have to feel like, again, like Garrett said, a lot of times I would hold back from asking for what I needed or what I wanted because in the past I had been shut down. I didn't get what I wanted. I was dismissed. And so coming to Garrett and saying like this is what I need was a process
Right.
because we started with baby steps. We started with, first of all, like we both just said like what do you need from me in with this, or how can I help you with this? And then as we grew in that, now I mean I can easily stop Garrett halfway through a conversation and be like, this is what I need from you. And he can be receptive to that. And you can get to that place. It just takes practice.
That's really good. So good.
One of the things that Garrett, you said that stood out to me, and that was, if you guys remember last week's episode, one of the things that we kind of ended on was the idea of inviting your spouse into a situation you need help with, or an area of your life or your communication you need help with. And Garrett, you kind of took that and flipped it on its head for a minute right there. Not in a bad way, just a different perspective. I don't think we debunked that piece of advice, but you took it from a perspective of asking permission from your spouse. Like, what do you need? And do I have that permission to give you this, or what do you need? And I think that that's just as important as the inviting side, because Chelsea, you mentioned in last week's episode that and both of you guys, in fact, mentioned that coming out of your previous relationships, you had to do some kind of internal looking at yourself to kind of figure out your communication skills. And so coming into a new relationship like that, I'm sure it's hard to communicate what you need and how to even invite someone into that. So in a beginning relationship or just a new situation, asking permission might even be an easier avenue to take than waiting for an invitation.
Yeah, there's that cliche, what is it? It's easier to ask for forgiveness than ask for permission.
Right.
And true. I mean, Chelsea said it, like it's uncomfortable sometimes to ask to be invited in or to invite someone in. And I mean, touching on unlearning some of those realities, well, I had to unlearn that because in the past with my ex, when I would ask to be invited in, it was dismissed at times and it was ignored. And so to now all of a sudden be with someone else who is like opening the door and welcoming, it takes a bit of a mindset shift. And so, I mean, I agree 100%. The permission, the invite, either way, I think what is the connection between the two of those ideas is that we're not assuming anything, because we're either being asked to come in or we're asking to go into a certain conversation.
Yeah. So tell us some ways that you've specifically seen improvement in your communication. I mean, we've kind of talked about the invitation versus asking for permission, and that sounds like a big thing, but what are some other ways that you've noticed different from your past relationships that you're like, man, this is just so much different? If for our goal in this is to try and help married couples, to try and better their relationships or even maybe save their relationships, what are some of those things that you're like, okay, if you see this happening, it's probably an area to work on, or this has really helped us, or this is something we noticed that got so much better because we practiced it or we looked inward towards ourselves. I gave you like 8 questions there. Hopefully you were writing notes and remembered all of it. But basically, go wherever you want.
That's your best piece of advice.
So good.
So I guess the place where I'll start is avoidance. Not even having the conversations. That was something that admittedly I was very guilty of in the beginning because I don't like confrontation. I don't like at times, just having those like awkward moments. And very early on in our relationship, we were given a piece of advice that if something feels uncomfortable for you, you need to go running towards it instead of running away from it, because that is where the true growth happens. And so Garrett and I actually practiced sharing things that were uncomfortable with each other. And we did that by, just asking each other questions about certain things and giving honest answers. And that way there, it kind of took that like feeling that you get. I mean, no, it didn't really take it away, but it helped, over time, like you get this feeling in the pit of your stomach and you're like, can I share this with you? Like, are you going to leave me? Are you going to break up with me? Like, there's certain things that you just feel so, there's things that maybe carry some guilt and shame. There's things that, might just be like triggers for you emotionally that you have to work through with your partner when you're talking to them about it and explain to them why they're triggers for you. But if you don't let your partner into those like innermost places, for us, it's a form of intimacy. For us, it is a way for each other to really just get to those innermost places. And, we have this saying that we say, like, you have to be able to get naked with someone emotionally to get naked with them physically. And that creates true intimacy. And so for us, we just had to, and I mean, standing naked in front of somebody in a physical sense is sometimes very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so, and let alone to stand naked in front of someone emotionally. But I will tell you, like, if you can overcome that fear of, what will they think? What will they say? Are they going to judge me? Like, and making those kind of assumptions and actually going towards the conversation or the thing that makes you feel uncomfortable. I promise you, there's something so good on the other side that, your partner will actually be grateful that you shared that with them and that you allowed them to, be part of that. And you, like, again, it's like your invitation, right? You're inviting them into that area of your world, of your emotional play, like of your emotional being.
Yeah, so well said. So I saw something on you guys' Instagram story one day that I was wanting to ask you about. It's kind of, like an intimate, private, probably space. But do you keep a journal or something to communicate? I saw like a black book that you were talking about because your boys found it or something. So talk to us about that piece of if that's communication.
Absolutely. So such a cool story. I'm happy you saw it because admittedly we learned so much in that moment, because about probably 3 or 4 days before the boys stumbled across it, Chelsea and I had gone out and we had sat down with a journal and we both sat and asked each other, what is it that you need from me? What is it that you want from me? What can I do for you? And these weren't, just strictly about in the bedroom.
Right.
This was within relationship. And obviously there was also some ideas or some desires around that intimate level of relationship. Nothing graphic or anything like that, but private conversations between us.
That's why I loved it. I was like,
right?
Your kids
Oh yeah, we were like, whoa. And initially, because I didn't know that they had found it until Chelsea told me, because the boys found it sitting out. It just got left on the coffee table in the living room the one night.
And they made a comment about it. They were like, oh, so you guys want to like do it 3 times a week or 4 times a week? Like, what? Where is this coming from?
Excuse me? Right? So there was like this initial shock moment, right? Where
Yeah.
I personally was like, whoa, like this is our personal, like this is about us. Like, what is it that makes it okay for them to know this? And then it took a day or two, and I had to really like relearn, as you asked off the top, Tom, like relearn the idea that it's okay for kids to see and know that their parents are being very transparent and writing it down versus assuming. And then we had a conversation, Chelsea and I. Well, is it really a bad thing that they know that their parents want to meet the needs of each other, that their parents want to do things that actually will help the relationship?
That they talk about those things,
Yeah.
because
Right?
how many times, like, I mean, I know for myself personally, I never heard or saw any of the like the adult conversations that my parents had growing up. It was very, very, very private. And although these are very private things,
Right.
kind of shift it and be like, you know what? If this can teach them that in the future, when they are married and they have a wife and kids, that they can communicate those things to their wife and
Or
vice
husband.
versa, or husband. It's like it's very much it's teaching them. It's leading by example. And that's really kind of what we got out of it, was that we were just leading by example, and our kids actually probably learned a good lesson in something that we
It's
thought
such
was
a funny story, but I applaud you guys first of all for doing that work in your marriage. Not just assuming or saying you're communicating, you're writing it down so you have kind of the accountability and a reference point too. But then also from your parenting to flip that as a good teachable lesson, and such a funny could have been embarrassing, but I did bring it up just to not to embarrass you again, but just because I loved seeing that, hearing that, how you did that with the boys, but also, like I said, that I'm like, oh, we need to start a notebook now, like that's really cool. That's really cool.
don't leave it on the coffee table.
Okay, good advice.
But if you do, it's not so bad. And
It's not the end of the world.
Right, but
It's
I
so
understand what
cool.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Something cool that I find about that in that story is that you guys took the time to shape the lens that your kids are looking through. They're seeing marriage the way that you're what's the word I'm looking for? Like acting it out, the way you're demonstrating it to them.
Communication. We
Yeah,
gotta work on
and
this.
so but they're also influenced by so many other areas in their life. Their friends, when they go to friends' houses and things like that, and maybe their friends' parents' marriage is not doing well, and so if they're seeing things in other areas of their life, that can shape their lens as well. But you guys have done a really cool thing by taking this moment that was private for you guys. Of course, they stumbled across it, but you turned it into a public thing within your family, and that just reshaped their lens. Whether you guys intended it to be that way or not, it gives them another positive outlook on marriage, that marriage can work, marriage can be a great thing, even if they're seeing that fail in other areas of their life, in their friends' parents' lives, and things like that. So kudos to you guys. That's an awesome thing to work through with them. So I love it.
Yeah.
So what else? Tell us a little more. What other things did you guys change about yourselves to get better communication in this relationship versus your past ones?
Yeah, I mean, the other key point I think is, we've all heard the term blindside, and nobody ever likes to be blindsided. And admittedly, this took some real awareness to it. But in terms of a blindside in a marriage, coming in after you've had a really crappy day at work, and your wife is making supper or busy with the kids, and going to her and talking about certain subjects or topics when you already know you're not in a very strong emotional state to have a constructive conversation, like, we just don't recommend it. And we hear couples talk a lot about, well, he's so defensive. or she always gets defensive. She wants to leave the room when I start talking. And then we ask them, well, tell us about the situation. Tell us what was going on. Tell us what you were thinking going into that conversation. Was she doing something? Were you already jumping to a conclusion? And we'll quickly unpack and realize that, yeah, there's other factors that are influencing why you're getting the response you're getting. And the blind side, I mean, just don't do it. Just don't do it. If there is something that is such a hot topic you need to talk about with your partner, one, tell them that it's important to you and give them the heads up that you'd like to talk about it. And then ask them, when would be a good time for us to bring this up? When could you be available to me without any distraction so we can talk about X, Y, or Z? And we've found that that's been so powerful in terms of how we interact in relationship, but also how we get responded to when we bring a topic forward. Because, I mean, we know that certain topics are subjects that we get a little bit more anxious about, be it money, parenting, discipline, rewards, the plans for the weekend. Each of us responds differently to these.
Mhm.
So if I can go to Chelsea on Monday and say, hey, when would be a good time this week for us to talk about our plans next weekend? Wednesday, let's talk about it on Wednesday. Okay, perfect. Now we both know that Wednesday we're going to have a conversation about what we're doing on the weekend. So it takes the guesswork out of it, and it allows both partners time to prepare. It allows both partners the time to come to the conversation with contributions versus one parent or one partner just feeling like, oh, well, I guess we're talking about money now.
Yeah.
I'm not in any position to talk about money. Like, I just changed a couple diapers. I'm tired. I want to go watch TV. And you want to talk to me about the monthly credit card statement? Like, sorry, you're going to get a defensive partner. It's going to happen.
Yeah, well, and that's just like a good segue too into, scheduling some of these talks too
Mhm.
on a regular ongoing basis. Like Garrett and I, for us, both of us, we've learned over the course of the years that money is like one of those topics that we're like, we have to just come into the conversation in the right state of mind. We have to come into the conversation and, be prepared. And so for us, rather than the blind side, we save every conversation, unless it's like emergent, to a money talk that we have every Monday at 8:00. And, and we find, and this is something that we actually coach a lot of our clients on, but we find that being able to dedicate that time takes the stress out of some of those kind of topics that are a little bit more, I guess, high stress for people. And so, schedule those talks with your spouse and just have those, even if it's a recurring event in your calendar, just make time and make those a priority. And then if something comes up during the week, write it down in a notebook and then bring your notebook to the meeting and make it like, and make sure that you're coming into those quote unquote meetings with, with the right state of mind. So whether you're, you have to do some deep breathing before, say a prayer,
Go
whatever
for a
you want
walk.
to do, just make sure you're coming in the right state. But honestly, it's been such a game changer for us when it comes to, those things that just are a little bit more heavy to talk about.
Yeah, that's so simple yet so wise. And
Mhm.
we've seen that practice in even family rhythms and things like that. If it's scheduled, it's especially in a work context, you're not going to miss that meeting, and you're going to come prepared. You're going to meet the deadline or come with notes or action steps after, and you're in a different mindset. So that is so, like I said, simple but so good.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and I love the idea. I mean, like you said, when something gets on our calendar, most of the time we stick to it. It's hard to fit things in on our calendar. I mean, you guys know you have 3 kids. There's stuff going on all the time. We have 3 kids. Just kind of making life happen day to day is sometimes what needs to be on the calendar. But we'll schedule those meetings and block the time out. Tell me your thoughts on this. I mean, you're obviously proponents of scheduling those things on your calendar. how much time should you block out for something like that? Because I mean, we said before that sometimes when you get that chance to talk without the kids around and it's uninterrupted time, the conversation can just go all night. I mean, we had a conversation like that a couple nights ago where we were just talking until like 12:30 in the morning, and then we are just exhausted the next day. So do you guys try to encourage a cutoff time for some things to try and keep your daily routine, or when that conversation flows, do you encourage to just let it flow?
Yeah, so when it comes to those types of topics, we actually have agreements in place. So again, communication, getting the consent and the agreement of both people to say, okay, we're going to spend an hour tops talking about the budget, but we also think that it's very important that if you are given that time and you schedule that time, if it only takes you half an hour to talk about your budget, by all means, talk about other things that are, that are coming up. The point of this is the agreements part where, like, for example, a lot of times people say like, don't never go to bed angry. Okay. So you know what? You could stay up all night and not resolve an issue. So sometimes you have to agree with your partner to be like, you know what? We're not in a position to be able to talk about this all night long because we've got responsibilities, we've got kids. So you make an agreement amongst the two of you that we say, okay, you know what? We're going to come back to this right now. We have to just shelf it, put it on the back burner for right now, but then we will come back to it. And so it's all about making those agreements. And, when it comes to the nights where you do want to have a little bit more conversation about certain things. Garrett and I had a night like that the other night. We were up till 2 a.m. And it's because now we just talk about all the things all the time. But, I feel like, you should put boundaries in place, especially if you do have like responsibilities, other things. But then again, it just goes to show you that maybe you need to put more focus and more priority in your calendar on time spent together and time spent being able to really just talk to each other and talk about what's going on in each other's lives, like plan a date night, talk about those things during that time, and just make it a priority.
Yeah, that's huge. I think that I love what you said about scheduling the time, and I think that for anyone who may be having communication issues, that can be a huge thing, kind of setting those boundaries, because maybe it's not we only have this much time to talk. Maybe if you're having issues and you're trying to build that communication muscle, maybe it's we only have to talk for an hour. And, it kind of gives you that exit out of the conversation when you're not used to kind of having those long conversations that just flow naturally. And when you're watching the clock, like, okay, I got 3 more minutes, and then I can digest this and then move on. And so I think that it's good from that perspective as well. When you're really trying to train yourself to get better at that, it gives you that opportunity. So that's great.
Yeah. No, I was going to ask any other takeaways. I want to know more about your couples coaching and things that you're up to and the days ahead for launch, but any other key takeaways for communication?
Yeah, I think just to go back to the defensiveness that sometimes happens in relationship, because admittedly it seems to be a bit of a theme with some of the people that we've been working with recently, in one partner getting defensive and how that rubs off on the other partner, and they start to shut down maybe. And when it comes to defensiveness, what we highly encourage couples to really bring into practice is the I, and come to your partner and say what it's bringing up for you. I'm feeling this way because, versus going to them and saying, you not putting away the dishes really makes me frustrated, or when you don't come home, or when you don't respond to my text, or when you just ignore me, you're instantly on the defense. And so again, to give an example, we've talked with clients and asked for scenarios, and they tell us exactly what they said, and it usually starts with you. And we then ask them, well, how do you feel when someone comes to you and starts the conversation with, you do this or you don't do that? You instantly get your back up, versus just reframing it and saying, I would really appreciate it if we could dedicate some time on Sunday nights just to talk about our week and know what we've got coming up. What's in your calendar? What's in my calendar? I would feel like that would make me a lot more calm when I go to sleep on Sunday night if I know what's coming. And when you use the word I, you now make it about yourself and not about your partner. And so it's okay to be selfish in relationship. I think sometimes we get told, oh, it's all about just giving in and allowing your partner to be who they are. Sometimes you need to be selfish and you need to just communicate that with the word I, and it will help in terms of the defensiveness. So that's the last piece that I just wanted to make sure we got in.
Yeah, no, that's so good.
That's awesome.
I want to keep. That's why I want to know about coaching, because you guys have such great advice and are already helping so many couples. So tell us about what you do in that regard.
Yeah, so we are certified relationship coaches. Obviously, we kind of specialize and our niche is blended families, but we love all relationships. We actually base our coaching off of the #1 relationship assessment in the entire world. And so that there in itself provides us with so much information, and not just us, but for our clients as well, to really get an idea of maybe why they are the way that they are in certain aspects of their relationship in the current moment. Because what we like to reference it to is it's like a moment in time. And so, it's just a snapshot of your relationship in its current state right now. And I mean, a lot of those things really help to understand maybe why they communicate the way that they do, or maybe why they're triggered by certain things, or they act the way that they do. So, that's the basis of our coaching program. But we all, like Garrett mentioned, we offer 2-on-2 coaching sessions. And then amongst that, we actually break it off and do one-on-one coaching as well, depending obviously on which package clients decide to go with. But yeah, you can schedule a free clarity call with us and we would love to chat with you. Basically what that is it is just a 60-minute kind of free flow conversation that we have. You choose the topic, whether it's maybe an area that you're struggling with or you're challenged by at the moment. And we just pour into your relationship. We have so many valuable tools in our toolbox that we can share with you. And, obviously like no obligation, but really at the end of the day, we just want to connect with people and we want to just pour into relationships because we love seeing people succeed in relationships, whether they're blended families or not blended relationships. And so, yeah, I don't know if Garrett would add anything to that, but
yeah, I think the biggest thing for us is accountability. And, some coaches maybe don't consider accountability to be a real priority, but we believe that, intentional actions will bring results. But if you just dismiss all the information that's available to you, it's not going to do you any good. So, we actually assign homework to our couples between sessions for them to go and put into practice what it is that we teach so that they can feel it, they can experience it, they can know what it's like. And that's really where the true change starts to happen. And, those exercises are theirs to keep. We don't send them a file that's going to just disappear in 24 hours. No, they keep that, they have that, that's for them. And, the other piece is we offer 24/7 support as well, because we know that relationships are dynamic. Yes, you might meet with us on a Tuesday and we might not meet again until the following Friday. Between those days, there's going to be stuff that might come up.
For sure.
So like emails, direct messages, we make ourselves available.
Yeah.
And we provide insight and perspective. And that's something that we really, pride ourselves in. So those are just a couple of the key things around our coaching. Right now, and Julie kind of alluded to it, we just launched a program called Transform. And Transform is going to be a 5-week program, 10 modules, a combination of live video content and pre-recorded video content. But it's really about connecting, aligning, and growing your relationship. Your marriage is strong when you are intentional with it. And we believe that, any investment of time, energy, and resources into your marriage is going to pay off. And so we created this program to help bring couples together. We recognize that the last 12 to 18 months have been tough.
Mhm.
Been a lot of disconnect.
A lot of disconnect.
Yeah.
So this program is designed to kind of breathe some new life into relationship and into marriage, and allow partners to see themselves as different, but also as connected and on a team. Because we believe that when you come into marriage, it's no longer about me, it's about we. And we're going to break down some limiting beliefs that might be holding people back from having the relationship and marriage that they truly deserve.
That's great. I love it. I mean, it sounds like it's going to be a great program that you're going to take people through. One of the things that you said, quickly that just stood out to me is you said the last 12 to 18 months has created a lot of disconnect. And that's so interesting because the last 12 to 18 months, we've all spent so much more time together. And that's just kind of a backwards way of thinking, right? You would think that because people get to spend more time together, that everything should grow together. But people were so used to being apart 8 to 10 hours during the day, seeing each other for a few hours. They didn't have to deal with the stuff. And so now it's just, it's been thrust upon everyone. You have to deal with this because you're stuck at home with this person in the same four walls for months on end. So
yeah, we referenced it as like the pressure cooker. You're in a pressure cooker with your partner, and all of the things that were kind of just sitting on the bottom are all rising up to the top. And we just really feel like, we've had so many people come to us and say, like, this is the most disconnected I think I have ever felt from my partner has been during this time. And and admittedly, like, we went through some periods of time where we were like, get out of my face. Like, I need to do my own thing. Like, and so, yeah, we've been through it. We've worked through it. We've been really intentional about, rebuilding. And that's why we created this program called Transform, because we went through that process during the last 18 months. And we have kind of, come out on the other side stronger and more connected and more aligned in our vision than ever before. So we just want to see other couples be able to do that now that things are kind of starting to hopefully turn around.
Yeah, that's awesome. So how can somebody get into Transformed?
Yeah, so if you follow us on Instagram, we're at transformed.couples. And in our bio, we have a Linktree link in there where people can go and sign up for Transform. And you'll get you can actually purchase the course right there on the link that it goes to. And I believe you can also purchase it on our website as well.
Yeah, it will start on September 15th. And it will be 5 weeks of really powerful breakthroughs for relationship. It'll be hosted on Facebook, and we'll have a private exclusive community there for everyone who is in community to grow and build their marriage.
And there will be live coaching as well from Garrett and I.
Yeah.
Oh,
awesome.
Extra special.
That's great. Just another quick question as we wrap everything up. We're recording this podcast. It's going to go out at a later date, which will go out before your event happens. But based on the dates that your event is going to happen, are you planning on doing another one in the future? If people think that time frame is not going to work for them, we don't want this to be outdated when they hear it. So, I assume it's not going to be a one-time thing, but we've already talked about what assuming can do to you. So,
no, definitely it will be offered again.
Okay.
I believe that, obviously people are at different seasons in their life. People are in different, moments in time. And so, yes, we will be offering Transform again at a later date. And there's going to be some other very, very exciting things coming as well.
Awesome. Well, make sure you guys go and follow Garrett and Chelsea at transform.couples on Instagram. I know you guys said you were on Facebook as well. Do you want to go ahead and shout that handle out?
Yeah, it's Transform Couples Coaching.
Cool. Perfect. We'll make sure we get all that information in the show notes as well so people can just click it and find you guys. But make sure you go follow them. They're putting out some great content. We love following along with it. Thanks so much for joining us for the past 2 weeks. This has been awesome conversation. We appreciate you taking the time for us. Hopefully, as you're listening to this podcast, you've gained some great insights into communication throughout this month. And if this is the first time that you're tuning in to the Marriage Puzzle podcast, make sure you give us a rating. But go back and listen to last week's episode with Garrett and Chelsea as well. I told you that at the beginning of this episode, but if you still haven't listened, go back and listen to it because it was great. So again, thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you guys next time.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
guys
so
so
much.
much.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Marriage Puzzle podcast. Remember that we have new episodes releasing every week on Mondays. You can also find us on social media on Facebook and Instagram at Marriage Puzzle. Check out our website, marriagepuzzle.com, for blog posts that come out on the 1st and 15th of every month. If this is your first time joining us, thank you so much for being here. We encourage you to go back and listen to episodes 1 and 2 to hear why we chose the name Marriage Puzzle and hear about our story. And don't forget to subscribe and leave us a rating. And as always, we look forward to you joining us next week, where together we'll work on marriage one puzzle piece at a time.